Greetings, everybody. So this, as old Uncle Marty says, is going to be a video where I really just am fully out there in the open. I'm part of the Gnostic Church and Academy of Lord Jesus Christ. This video is, as a disclaimer, fully for educational and entertainment purposes, more actually entertainment. Marty, I love you. You're going to hate this video because in our chat, I kind of just like shared a little bit of my theory or perspective about what's going on here in this realm. And I got quite a bit of people that said, I'd love to hear more about that. So a lot of you have been starting to watch my videos. I appreciate the support and the love. If you can, subscribe and like to this if you're not already subscribed. And don't forget to hit the like button. Or maybe you won't like this, and if you don't hit the like button. So this video is me just fully exposing myself in the sense of like how I see this place, what I think is going on here to an extent. And it is literally just based on speculation. Again, Marty hates that, but that's what I'm doing. None of this is necessarily provable. It's just based on let's say visions, messages, experiences, studies, especially getting into the commercial space and how it all works and the esoteric side of it with spells and trusts and what's the most powerful way to operate here, and that we're children of God and so on. So I'll start with, I've been friends with David Weiss, Flat Earth Dave, for like 20 years now or something like that. Long before he was Flat Earth Dave, I used to call him Greenwich Dave or Solar Dave. Shout out Dave. I've always been like his biggest, I'd say, like critic or whatever, just like I often talk smack to him and like, what difference does it make if the earth is flat or not? I still have to get up and put my pants on and take care of my son and be a good neighbor. And, all that is true. However, for him, it brought him to God. And so while I do bust his chops and I am hard on him, he has always, always, always been a soldier, been honest, been open, been authentic, been a shining example in my life. Consider him an Obi-Wan to me in my life. And he would say, or he has said, he feels the same way about me, in his life. Just that, he's been I would say more kind and compassionate toward me. And I've always been, of course, younger in that sense, as far as my ability to have that sense of compassion and support for my fellow brothers and sisters. And it's something I've been working on very hard. And so, Dave, this one is for you. I love you. Thank you so much for always supporting me, always believing in me, and never settling for me doubting myself and my abilities and my mind. So that being said, I was, at Flattoberfest a couple years ago in Greenville, and I was like the only one there that, when did you become a flat earther? I'm not a flat earther. And I only would say that, and then I would also, include the fact that I know that the sphere is a lie, that the globe is a lie, that I know we're not spinning, and none of that is possible based on, from what I can tell. And that's kind of some of the stuff I'm going to get into. And kind of what I think is going on in this realm. So this may be long, forgive me. It is, there's just no other way to do it. So I'll go as quick as I can to get all this out. And I have a few notes down here, so I do my best not to forget things. But again, just shout out to old Uncle Marty and David Weiss. I really am grateful for you both to give me the courage needed to even do this video. So it is not that I'm not a flat earther. It is that it's not something I've researched extensively or that mattered to me, because I have always had a connection with God. It was never my feeling that there wasn't a God or a source or a creator. That's insane to me that somebody could live that way. Just look at a fern, look at a tree. Like, you see a painting and there was a painter. Well, consider me a painting and there was a painter. So let's just get that right out of the way. I lived very angry with God for a long time in my teenage years. I lived very confused and lost about what was going on here. And because of my seeking and asking, I have been given lots of answers that make sense to me. And again, they're speculative. However, they help me see life in a way that makes sense. So, as far as I can tell, the earth is a flat, level plain. Of course, there's mountains and valleys and rivers and oceans and movement. However, it is not a globe or a ball in any way whatsoever. If you don't believe in the artificial sun simulator, you can go and Google the patents for it, because it exists and it has existed. And there was even a time recently, supposedly, that the sunflowers weren't facing the sun in certain areas, and I don't know what that was about. I don't know if it was true. I never saw it other than in videos, and we know how that goes. So the point is that that led me to is there a sun simulator? Yes, look it up. There's patents for it. So that's where the whole Uncle Marty and Dave did great work on what could have happened recently in Antarctica. And I only know about this stuff, excuse me, excuse me. I am not the type to follow false prophets or idols. I've never, I could sing a song, but I don't know who sung it, kind of thing. I haven't had a whole bunch of respect for the artists in my life, and maybe I should, but I don't. Just because I feel for how I live, it isn't me speaking, it is God speaking through me. Or however, maybe it's the devil, maybe it's Christ. I don't know. All I can say is when I speak, I don't feel like it's me most of the time, quote unquote me, my ego self, or whatever you want to call it. So, as far as I can tell, there is Genesis 1 talks about the firmament. That is a crystal dome. And what proves that is that if you shine a light, it is white. However, if you shine it through a crystal, it becomes a rainbow prism. And it becomes a rainbow. You see the rainbow. And so through a prism, a crystal prism is how that's even possible. So to me, a rainbow is reflective of the fact that we live in a dome, a crystal dome. Like in Wizard of Oz, when she shows up in the bubble, like a big snow globe, and it is a closed circuit system. Maybe there's an infinite plane of many domes. However, it doesn't seem to me that's the case. I actually more vibe with the idea that this is a matter of densities, and each level is a density. Like they found that lake at the bottom of the ocean that they couldn't penetrate. It's that same kind of idea, I think, and it is a crystalline structure that is the firmament, or the covering, or the dome. And that is why Christ is the king of this place. And, one theory is the avatar theory, where that position and that role, that soul, is always here holding that space of polarity. So in this space, we are in a space of polarity, of duality, of the yin and yang. And, there's the dark and the light. And, there's black and white, and that's it. There is no gray area when it comes to esotericism. There is black magic and white magic. White magic, you support the community, and you utilize magic for the benefit of others. As a trustee, you're somebody who operates this business for the benefit of a beneficiary, not for yourself. Black magic is your LLCs and things that are going to directly benefit you, and not necessarily your community. That is black magic. It is self-serving. It is Darth Vader versus Yoda, for instance, as an archetypal figure. I'm definitely a big movie guy, or I was growing up. Haven't had a lot of time lately to even turn on a screen. Thank you, God. Thank you, Jesus. So, from my perspective, as far as I can tell, we live in a flat dome. And the reason why I feel this way is because if I let go of a helium balloon, I don't watch it fly in another direction at 500 miles per hour. We're supposedly spinning so fast, and somebody's, we're this atmosphere. Yeah, maybe. I live in a place, or I used to live in a place where I watched rockets go off all the time, and a lot of them would go this way towards the ocean, but some of them went straight up, and you'd hear this loud bang, and they would say, it's the sound. No, I don't think so. I think that's them trying to break through the dome, and that's why you only hear it every once in a while, very rarely, that big loud bang, and I think that's what it is. And, again, I can't prove this, and I think a lot of the times they're just putting more surveillance up there, so when you think of things in vibration and density and frequency, then you start realizing like maybe it's just densities. Like, water is just a denser form of what we are swimming around in here, and maybe we're the bottom feeders or the crabs or the lobsters or whatever that are walking around the bottom of our density, and then there's birds like fish that are able to swim in this density. And I can go on and on about that stuff. And so the way I can see that it works is like God, the fallen angels, the watchers, as they're also known, are the ones that kind of like, are here watching and keeping things fair. And when people are too far gone one way or the other, like, God is the middle path. God is the center. God is the spine, is the Nile River, is the river that flows up, right? And I've talked about this. God is the zero, the all and the nothing, the alpha, the omega. It's beyond any human concept. God, to me, is not good or bad. God created good and bad in this place for us to experience duality, for us to experience ourself. Forgive me if I'm not staring right at the camera. It's like I go into this space in my mind and I just start, and I don't want to lose that. So what happens is you have these two polar figures. One is walking the full middle path, and the other is Satan, the devil, whatever, that is one of the extremes of that path. And it is, the woman at church that goes to church every Sunday and comes out flipping the bird and judging everybody because they haven't found Jesus yet, and judging people because they got pregnant out of wedlock, and just like looking down and not with compassion, far from what Christ taught us. And then there's the other side that is also very self-serving and power hungry and does horrible things to people, and is all about destruction. And all of these are necessary in this space. However, what it dictates is how we are going to experience this space. So like Yoda, he is an ally of the Force. He does not try to control it in one way or the other or in any way. He works with it. He is an alchemist. He takes whatever comes and turns it to gold. That is our job. That is what Christ showed us to do. So Christ is walking that middle path. That is God. That is above any good or bad. And there's these beings that hold these spaces of the polarity here, and allegedly like Christ is the king and the devil is the queen, and it's always held by a female in that title, and Christ is always held by a man, and Jesus is the most known one that we know of now, but Buddha was one, Krishna was one, Moses was one, and so on and so on. Again, this is just the avatar theory. And it makes sense to me that in this space, in this realm, there's always these beings holding these jobs, these roles, and these 200 watchers are the ferrymen, are the fairies, keeping the fair, the circus, the playground being fair. And there's certainly beings here that do their best to keep us at bay. And I think that's part of the deal. Like if you were training for the Olympics for the gold, it would have to be very strenuous training to get that gold. You'd have to work very hard. And so I think this game is set up in a way, and it is beautiful here, and I don't feel like it's a trap at all. So I don't want to be misunderstood in that way. So make sure that's clear. This is a beautiful place. It's a playground, and it is for us to experience life and kisses and love and hurt and pain, and all of it ultimately is to see, are we trustworthy? Are we honorable? Do we have integrity? Through all of this, are we able to be as Christ showed us to be, of, not falling for this place, not thinking this is all there is, not fully entrenching in material. Like you can experience material for what it is, and that's okay. However, to think that's all that matters and that's all there is nuts. Like that's where we start to get possessed. Possessions possess. And when you possess things, that's the whole point of trust, is you don't own anything. You just operate, you manage things. You get to hold title, hold assets. You don't actually own anything, because you aren't going to be, your body is not going to be here one day for you to be in this place to own anything. And so, what happens is every so often, like the time of Noah and the flood and Babylon and the fire and the towers burning, and people just go too far to the extremes and not the middle path, and the ones that are saved and for the next round are the ones that found the middle path, and those are the ones that live in honor and keep their word and keep their oaths and are allies of the Force and roll with life and know how to just like be the duck where it rolls off, right? And you know, in a sense, like that movie They Live, again, movie buff, They Live, or The Matrix, where there's the machines, there's the material, and excuse me, there's this group of beings that seem to kind of like run this place, and it's not necessarily a bad thing per se. It's just that they do, and it's set up in a way where if we start, you know, going against God in every way, like changing our sex and not loving ourselves, therefore not loving the divine within about how God created us, and walking the path of Christ, and living for the community rather than for ourselves, and we haven't overcome that test, we'll call it, or that part of the game, then we aren't going to be able to live in heaven here now. We're always going to be miserable, feeling that void. And I can tell you, just based on my experience, I lived for myself when I was younger, didn't know the game like I do now. And the game is literally serving. Like, I was fulfilled in my marriage because I lived to serve her. I paid for, bought everything, whatever she asked. Like, I literally did everything I could to serve her. And it seemed like the deeper that got, and the more I served her, and the more she meant to me, the more she pushed away and ran from that. And that's a pattern in many people's lives, including hers. We just talked about this, had a great talk about how she knows she's been running from love, from Christ, from her higher self. Her whole life. You know, most people do this, and that's why in the flood only one family was saved. In Babylon times, only a few people were saved, and why there's these great resets throughout history, because, you know, people need to be washed away and restarting back to a golden age, back to a time of peace where we can live again as a community. And then again, as it goes too far and we're too self-entrenched and narcissistic and selfish and self-centered and so on, again, it just gets like any game, it gets reset, literally reset. Like the setting is a new age, reset by God, by the creator, by the source. And again, like, God created, you know, good and bad, right? So to say God is good is silly, has always been silly to me. Like, God has created both, and both paths essentially do eventually lead to God. You know, the hero's journey was always to go within, to go down, to descend in order to expand or ascend. And so I look at it as expansion and ascension as one thing, not necessarily upwards, but outwards, upwards, downwards. All of it is true ascension, is holiness, whole energy. And so to say that we don't live in like this, you know, explain to me with going back to the flat earth, explain to me how we can look up at the same stars that the Egyptians were looking at. I mean, mapped out, right? They wrote all this. So how could that be possible? If we're spinning at 500 miles an hour, how is that possible? How is it possible that flights don't get caught up in these 500 mile per hour winds and go really fast, or in one way, and can't go the other way? You know, these are just simple things to think about. How is it that I'm able to see the stars that are supposedly so far away, but this ball is spinning and this is shining from one spot so far away? And allegedly it's like because the galaxy is spinning, but at the same rate? No, it isn't. And so it all just aligns in a way where I'm spinning and that's spinning with me at whereas if you just step out of your program, you look up and you see that it's moving. We certainly aren't, you know. And if I jump up, how come, you know, I don't, like, technically you should be able to rise up in a balloon and stay in one spot, and the earth, you should land in a different spot below you. And how come that, you know, that doesn't happen? How come, you know, we even need jet engines in a flight if we can just like hover and let the earth spin 500 miles per hour and get to, like, from New York to LA in a couple hours, you know, instead of 6 hours on a flight. So when you start thinking in terms of density and buoyancy, you know, and then it's like, of course, let's get to this. The ultimate question, why? Well, for me, why is A, scarcity. If we're on this ball earth, then, you know, it allows us, BALL, ball. Look up what ball is. A lot of the people watching this probably already know that, but if you don't, look it up. So, you know, we're on this place that they create scarcity. They, as in the watchers, right? For us to, are we going to fall for fear or live in faith? And that's the ultimate test. Are you going to live in faith, or are you going to live in fear? Are you going to live in knowing that God's always got you, or not? And it's like this big magic show. And the fact is you need to understand that everything wants to survive, and the dead cannot survive without the living. So this place, these entities cannot survive without us being here. And so they need us, and they will do anything they can, just like you would to survive. They would do anything they can in order to continue to survive. Like Monsters Inc., they survive off fear, right? So, and fear keeps us in this place in a certain way. And if you don't live in fear, then you live like without attachment and just experience this place as an observer, and you become your true self again, and you're able to get back to God, and you don't take anything too seriously. You don't get tricked or easily caught up in anything. And so the reason for Flat Earth, besides the scarcity, like ultimately at the heart of it to me, is it's about creating a hierarchy of control. Money, all these different tools are used to control us. Like they print the money, right? So if they can print money, then it isn't about money. It is about control, and they feel they need to control us in order to continue to survive, and that's probably true. And so once we gain self-control by our relationship directly with God, so what they take out of the equation to the best they can is to make the illusion that we can't have a direct connection with God. By them doing all this magic math that is based in theory, and all this measuring of the earth and stars and sun, and the sun is this far away and the moon is within our area, but they're the same exact size in our sky if you look up. And it's just simple to me. You look up and it almost proves that there's no way anything that they're saying is true. And while I can't explain what's going on in the sky, I certainly feel that it reflects the fact that they're lying. And why are they lying is for control. Again, if they don't have us, then they don't exist. Just like if we don't shop at Best Buy or Walmart or we're any of these places, they go out of business. These beings don't want to be out of business. They came down here to run this place, and it might be their job. I don't know. I don't really think anybody's against me per se. I honestly don't think anybody or any being can be against me, and that's how I live. And that's kind of what I was preaching at that Flat Earth Fest, and I've been preaching for years at this point. Like, it may seem like these beings are against you. It's a big magic show. It's part of the illusion. And so if you're truly a son of God, a daughter of God, no man, no being, no devil, no watcher, nothing can stand against you. Nothing. No matter how much they try to scare you, intimidate you, tie you up, prison you, whatever, they can never get your soul if you don't give it up through fear and acquiescence. And so I didn't wear a mask. I didn't fall for any of that nonsense. It was insane to me that so many people did, and I don't know why, because I've been watching people fall for things their whole life. I didn't fall for school growing up. I barely showed up to class. I didn't fall for a lot of things. I didn't fall for so many things. Let's just put it like that. I don't feel like 9/11 happened the way we're being told, for instance, and I know that's really, really sketchy to say on here, and I'm still saying it. I was one of the few of my friends sitting around. I'm like, there's no way that happened the way we're being told. And then there's a lot of videos out there now that share different perspectives on how that all happened and what happened and why it happened. So that's not what this video is about. There is magic going on here constantly, and it's about keeping us not just here, but in a certain mindset while we're here. And so while they create this globe and this thing that most simple-minded folk like me can't possibly begin to fathom, is then it creates this hierarchy and this disconnect from the source. And that's like my friend Dave, he didn't even believe in God, and Flat Earth brought him to God. And while I've seen other Flat Earthers not have God, which is amazing to me, and don't live in a way that they're honorable with God, and they still live and hurt their brothers and sisters and have no problem being selfish and self-centered, that just shows me how much they're hurting. But it also shows me Flat Earth doesn't just bring everybody to God necessarily. However, it does give you the opportunity to rid yourself of all the illusions and lies that keep you from that. So, in other words, when you see NASA, you think of them as these super smart people, whereas NASA in Hebrew means to deceive, right? And a lot of people might know that already. Some maybe don't. Look it up. Anything I'm saying, check it out. And so that's where, trusts come in, and all this commercial space comes into play. And that's why, a lot of what I've been doing led me to this, and led me to what is going on here. And it is just one big fair. It is a fair. It's called a fair for a reason. It's supposed to be fair. And right now things are out of whack, and that's why there's a reset happening. is that a lot of people have gone too far to one side or the other. They know everything, or, they're just very destructive, and they're not walking that middle path, the Yoda path, the Christ path, the Buddha path of being one with God and an ally of the Force, and using this magic, our true alchemical being, to serve our community, to bring forth, to channel in the kingdom of heaven in the third realm. This is the third rock from the sun, the third realm, and the third density, if you will. And therefore, it is our job in this material being, this body, to utilize our soul to remember who and what we really are, to then channel in the kingdom of heaven, to honor our sons and daughters, to honor 7 generations, to live for the community, to live for the future, to do everything we can for our progeny, and to honor our ancestors who died for us and continue to pave the way for us. And yeah, some were lost, some messed up, whatever. The fact is there's always ways to look at it. And like mindfulness teaches us, nothing is all evil or all good. There's parts that are evil. Some things have more parts that we would call evil, and some are more good, more parts that are good. However, you can choose to focus on whatever you want, and then therefore alchemize whatever you choose, because whatever you focus on strengthens, right? So now, just to get to this, I gave the disclaimer. I am now officially coming out that I do believe the earth is flat, that there's no chance in any way possible that we are on a spinning ball at 500 miles per hour with gravity. I feel like it's electromagnetism, as my friend Dave has shown me. It is density and buoyancy. It is, different life forms. I believe in giants. I believe they lived. I believe in dragons. Essentially, I believe that most of the fairy tales, fairies, gnomes, all of them are just interdimensional beings. Bigfoot, all of it. I think that there is truth in almost everything. And maybe it's even to the point where if we dream it and imagine it, it may become reality in some way, shape, or form. Not that I'm that delusional that I just like, oh, there's a fairy. I feel like most of the lies are what we're being told on TV about scarcity, about climate change. As a matter of fact, I would say the climate change they're talking about is the social climate that's changing, not the weather. They are manipulating the weather, and they've been doing so for a long time. There was even news reports in regular media, like on TV in the 70s. There's videos that were out for a long time, and more importantly, look it up on paper. I've talked about the paper game. You want to see the power, you want to see the evidence. They don't hide anything. You want to see if I'm being true or real, look up the patents, look up definitions, look up laws, look up the legal system, look up statutes in your own state, in your own areas, in your countries. Well, by the way, your nations, not your countries. Let's get clear. Words matter. So the crystal sphere, the devil is the queen, Christ is the king. There's always some being holding that space here. God is the all, not good or bad. So I'm just summing up everything. Density, levels, dimensions. I believe in different dimensions, and that we can only perceive, as you know, certain amount with our eyes, whereas hallucinogens and true meditation practices and breathing practices get us to a place where we can start seeing more, perceiving more forms, more light. And so how could all that be happening and not be real? And so therefore, why would they hide all this? Because they want to hide magic, they want to hide your true power, they want to hide the different little pieces and parts, so you're at least somewhat still missing things and still broken, so that they can still live, so they can still exist. Not that they're living, but they can still exist. And they need your life force energy to exist. And if you stop feeding them and stop, you turn off the TV and you read again and you start living in a certain way where you directly answer to God. And, like I didn't go to class in high school, and I didn't care about what men and women had to say about it. I was fully entrenched in the fact that I knew that I was only here to serve one master. And it's just something that's been in me from the beginning. I had visions of a version of Christ when I was a child, and I knew I was here for something significant. And even if it isn't significant materialistically, it is significant in my power to speak and articulate and channel love into this space, and love authentically. And those who have met me they just like, they're either run from me like roaches run from the light, or they flock to me. They like moths to a flame. And I've had people just give me the greatest compliments of hugs and kisses and tears, and the authenticity that flows, and how I just am always me no matter what, without fear in that sense. And yes, it stinks to me sometimes that I'm not well received, and I'm getting more and more over that, which makes sense to me why until you're 40, you can't study the Kabbalah. You can't really get into mysticism properly, because you don't have security in yourself, in God, in the divine fully. You're still insecure, you're still emotionally unstable. And I'll tell you, between mindfulness, between Marty and his teachings and the group there and all the wonderful people that share so much amazing knowledge, it has been a blessing in a way that I could never have imagined. And I feel more confident, more knowledgeable, and more knowing, more secure, more faith in myself and my knowledge and what I'm sharing than ever in my life. And it's truly knowing that I am a healer, that I am able to lay my hands on people and heal them, facilitate God's healing through my vessel, through my heart. Let's see, people that go too far easily led. It's about frequency and vibration. So essentially, I think that I got my point across, and I hit every point that I needed to. And, I just wanted to make it clear that I'm no longer going to sit here and say I'm not a flat earther. What I'm going to say is I haven't done enough research to sit here and debate with you about it. However, simple observations for me is all it took. When David first presented it to me in 2015, I think we sat at his table for 15 minutes, and I was like, yep, makes perfect sense. They lie about so much stuff. Why wouldn't they lie about that? It wasn't even that big of a deal to me, honestly, because I just live in the mindset that I live in. And, for so many people, it was such a big deal. And for me, it just wasn't. And it wasn't something I felt like I needed to search into. What I wanted was something more of a solution. In other words, like, how do we get them to stop treating us this way? Or what are we missing that is keeping us from living in power here? And it was all about faith. It was all about trust. It was all about putting our brothers and sisters on notice. It was about using the pen and the paper game. And, David and Marty and all of us do all this stuff. It's just, we all have different purposes, as Dave puts so eloquently to me. He's like, Nick, my purpose is to introduce people to flat earth. That's what I do. That's my job. That's the job God gave me. Your purpose is when they're ready and they're awake, and now they're like freaking out that their whole plug has been pulled. Now we send them to you to get their paperwork right, to get their mind right about being sons and daughters of God, and how to operate here and correct their paperwork, and know what that is and know how that is. And there's others like me out there. Shout out Chief Joshua. He's retired now, but he was a huge teacher for me. And James Lovett is still out there teaching, and his prices are reasonable. His paperwork is great, and he has way more experience than I do, period. I'm just being honest. Like, yes, I come from a perspective. Yes, I help with specific things that I'm pretty good at. But he's somebody that I would consider far above my level as far as the commercial game goes. And he's very, very, realistic and stable, and, knows how to deal with things in a very realistic and lawful way. None of this crazy stuff that you hear from other people, like, oh, just do this, just do this. No, he follows procedure and learns their system just like Christ did. And so I think I covered most of what I think I wanted to. I hope I didn't miss anything. I pray I didn't miss anything. I do my best not to hope. Hope creates despair. I pray that this got through to you, that this vibes with you. And again, this is totally entertainment and speculation. I can't prove any of it. I've read some books about this. I've come across just my own visions and perspectives based on asking God questions and receiving answers through my vessel, through my mind, through my pineal gland. And, through doing hallucinogenics, mushrooms and DMT and different things like that, just a lot of different answers have come to me. And it makes perfect sense to me that there's a certain amount that are here playing the game, playing in the sandbox. The squared circle, as Marty so eloquently, illustrates for us as his disciples. I look at him as a brother, as an equal. I think he considers me the same. I'm the type that walks into the room and I end up backstage hanging with the boys. It's like always been my way, my life. often the guy on the stage ends up, we're chilling, chatting after. I don't know. It's just the way my life has gone. When I was at like the Cannabis Cup in California, I started walking up to the stage. The security guard opened the gate for me. Didn't even question it. I'm like, nah, bro, I'm just here chilling. And he's like, what? Oh, I thought you were one of the guys. And I didn't have a lanyard, nothing. It was just, he's like, man, well, when you end up on the stage, here's my number. I want to be your security guard. Like, that's the kind of stuff that's happened in my life. And so I do know I have to stop hiding. I have to stop pretending like I'm not here, that God didn't send me here to make him proud, to make Christ proud, and to help my brothers and sisters that are on this mission help live in faith and strength and courage and knowledge and wisdom, and stand on our square and stand for the people and stand for the community and be the trustees we're meant to be, especially those who really don't get this and don't have the mindset for it. We need to protect the innocent, protect the weak, especially children. And a lot of alleged adult bodies walking around here are still children, and we need to treat them as such with compassion and grace and love. And I've learned that more now in the last couple of months doing mindfulness and having talks with Marty, and the way Dave has treated me for our whole relationship. I just haven't shouted out Dave enough, and I really just want him, and it's because I hide from, the Flat Earth thing, and he has a great app, the Flat Earth Sun and Moon Zodiac, I think, app or something. I don't know exactly what it's called. It's on Marty's channel. Look up, I think it's flatearthdave.com. He's definitely shadow banned, and it's like, why are they being attacked? If this was all nonsense, this is like the nail in the coffin for me. If Flat Earth was nonsense, why do the CIA, the feds, I know you're watching, and if you're not, you're going to be probably when you learn about me. Hello, hi, how you doing? Flat Earth Dave has been attacked from day one. Why is that? If Flat Earth had no standing, no validity, why do so many random people come out going against it? The same way random devils come out against Christ. I can talk about Buddha, Krishna. How come when I talk about Jesus Christ of Nazareth, they flip out like the demons and devils come out of the shadows, okay? And they attack. So explain to me, if none of this had validity, they would ignore it. They would laugh about it. They wouldn't say anything about it. But people literally have made it their job to debunk it. Why? Let it go. Well, you're only giving it more fuel, more fire. So to me, that's just showing me God, no matter what evil happens, I think it says in the Bible, like whatever evil is attempted, I will always turn it to good. Again, the ultimate alchemist, right? No matter what these people try to do, it will always be turned for good, for the community, for the greater good. That is how God operates. It is inescapable, and that is our job as stewards of our Father, is to continue to take whatever rough things, whatever shit, growing up, 16-year-old mom didn't want anything to do with me, dad that I still don't know, is not on my birth certificate, turning all this horrible abuse, physical, sexual, emotional, drugs, alcohol, all over my life, turning all that as the alchemist into gold, into experience, into something I can share with my fellow brothers and sisters and say, hey, I got you. I know what you're going through. I love you. You're not alone. Anytime you need to talk, I'm the guy. I'm the one that picks up the phone, that texts. I'm the one you're looking for, that answers your text, that takes your calls. That when you have that, oh man, I wish this one answered, that one answered. Ask anybody that's involved with me intimately. It's rarely a long time before I text back, before I call back, before I answer, because I know what that's like when you're hanging on by a thread and you're just wishing one person would text you back, one man, one woman, not person. So that's what's going on here. We need to be living for God. We need to be living for Christ, for the middle path, for the middle road, and keeping our honor and doing what's difficult, because in this place, that is difficult because they need us to survive. And that is what's happening. There is a crystal dome around us, and we can expand. The reason it's called Christ, right? Crystal dome. The reason it's called a chrysalis, when a butterfly goes into the chrysalis to turn into the caterpillar. We are the caterpillar that's in this chrysalis called the body, and we are to become butterflies. We are to expand out and fly. And actually, I've had dreams, and visions that, we can fly. Supposedly, I came across a theory a while back that our appendix used to be like a hummingbird, same idea, that there was the organ that allowed us to fly. And there's stories of monks, levitating, and there's so many abilities we are not tapped into, so much of our brain that we don't activate. And so that is why they were removing appendixes. And if you remember, there was a movie called Hook in the 90s with Robin Williams, and there was a scar he had, and he kept saying it was his appendix was removed, and he couldn't remember how to fly. And it wasn't until he remembered that it was actually a fight with Captain Hook that he had, and his appendix wasn't removed, that he was able to find that happy thought and fly again. And how do you fly? Is faith, hope, and happy thoughts, faith, trust, and pixie dust. Faith, trust, and pixie dust. Faith in God, trust account, trust. God needs to trust you. You need to trust God. And pixie dust, some magic. You need to write your own spells, and then you can fly. And it's through happy thoughts. So think happy thoughts. What you practice, what you focus on is what grows, what gets stronger. David has taught me to manifest. And recently somebody reminded me in the Marty's chat of the Gnostic Church and Academy of Lord Jesus Christ is the way we manifest is thank you, God, for all the money in my bank account, for the millions of dollars. And you literally thank God because it's already there. It's just not there in this now space. It's in a different now space. If it's millions, whatever it is, just as an example, again, not material. However, I can tell you, I've always had what I needed. If there was a time where I had almost no money and I needed $5 to take the train, $2.50 each way to get to my job. And literally I get home from walking my dog and the mail had arrived, and I open it up and there's some survey from a radio station and there was a $5 bill in it. Explain this kind of stuff. And I know all of you can relate to this. You just don't see it. You don't appreciate it. You forget it. You take it for granted. God has always had your back, or you would not be watching this. You would not be here. You would not be breathing. So stop ignoring God. Stop pretending like God doesn't love you or doesn't have your back. Just because God spanks you sometimes or puts you through difficult situations, that's training. That's training for you as a soldier on the battlefield for God. So start changing your mind, changing your perspective, and your whole life changes. The power you will live in, the joy you will live in will never go away. That void will be a distant memory. And you will never, ever feel that suffering again. Will you feel sad? Will you feel pain? Yeah, the suffering goes away. It is all for a purpose at that point. It is all for some journey, for some greater good. And you no longer start taking it where, it's only you or something. You start looking for others that are going through that and serving them, and it just takes it all away. And that's what's going on here as far as I can tell. Why Flat Earth matters and why they're lying is because they want to disconnect us from God. So, it wasn't that I didn't believe in God. I just wasn't directly connected to God all the time necessarily. I went through times where I felt very disconnected. And again, maybe that's part of the ride too. So I begged for God, and really it was strengthening my connection with God, with my Father, and walking the Christ path, of the middle path, of the servant path, of the true joyful path in this place. And when you live to serve others, you do keep your word. It's a no-brainer. It's easy. It's always about, like Marty and I were just talking about, it's always about saying yes to God. When my ex wanted help with her business structure, sure, okay, I would serve anybody else. So, just because you've made a mistake and messed up and I don't want to reconcile with you doesn't mean that I can't do my job that God asked me to do, which is help people set up proper business structures so they can operate in honor here. That would be wrong of me and be negating and neglecting my job that God gave me, my mission. We're all on a mission, right? Mission. Think about it. You're a missionary, a soldier, and, take up that role. And it isn't easy. Nope. And it isn't meant to be. It needs to be hard. So you're proving yourself that you're worthy of God, worthy of being in the ultimate house with God. So I think that's enough. I rambled on for a long time. This is where I'm at. This is how I see the world. This is how I see what's going on here. It is a realm in which we exist, made by God for his children to love him and serve him and serve others to show the glory of God. And I don't know that there's any other reason other than to experience life. And that's okay too. Experience it while you're here. Just do your best not to intentionally hurt anybody, steal, cheat, lie, any of that. And there are beings here that don't necessarily have souls like we do, and they do those things to tempt you. People, things, stuff, temptations are going to come along, just like it says in the Bible with Jesus in the desert and all that. Eve in the garden. And our job is to always to glorify God. So you're married, somebody comes along, your job, if they're willing to pursue you, they're not a good man, they're not a good woman. Your job is to glorify God. Hey, I committed to my wife, I committed to my husband. No, I appreciate how beautiful you are, and I appreciate the compliment that you're giving me by pursuing me. However, I committed to God. And I would think you would want to honor God by never doing that. Would you really want to hurt my wife or my husband by pursuing me? That doesn't show me you're a good man or a good woman, right? If you're willing to hurt the community for your own gain, then you're not operating with God. You're not operating as Christ. And I think that you have some stuff to look into there. And and if you're holding that space of selfishness, thank you, because I don't have to, and I don't want to live how you're living with that pain and that void and that selfishness. And I'm so grateful I don't live like that anymore, and that I don't have to hold that space anymore, that I got to this space now, and I get to be smiling and in love and in joy and serve my fellow brothers and sisters, and know that that's the true path that brings everything I was ever looking for in my life. I love you all. If you want to have a conversation in private, if you want to get your business affairs, if you want to know what I sell, if you want to know what I provide, I don't sell anything, I provide in exchange for some amount of a donation, like Shilajit and different minerals and different lotions and oils and different products. If you want to have a conversation, if you're struggling, whatever it is, and you just need somebody to talk to, thelivingmysterychurch.org, thelivingmysterychurch.org. I seek and love and am grateful to serve you. I am now grateful when God uses me to serve the divine within me, to serve the divine within you. I know how crazy this is, how crazy this sounds. I'm okay with that, obviously, because I finally am being courageous enough to talk about it. So that's what I think's going on here. Take it or leave it. I'm okay with that. And, I'm not pretending that I know it all or that I'm right even. It's literally for entertainment and just kind of how I see it to the best of my ability at this point. I love you. Peace.